Hi, my name is Robert Shelley with Shelley Law, and my law firm assists physicians with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about the differences between RVU and collections. And so there are two types of compensation models for physicians. I'll just kind of walk through kind of the variations of both of them. So there are, I guess, probably three main ways that a physician is compensated. You could just be compensated purely on a base salary, meaning there's no production associated with your compensation. You could be paid just on RVUs. So an RVU, in the simplest way, the CMS issues every year a schedule of RVUs, and basically every encounter that you have has an RVU associated with it. The higher acuity, the longer you're with a patient, the more RVUs you generate. And so in an RVU-based contract, and this is just purely RVU-based, you just multiply the RVUs you generate times it's called the compensation factor, and it does vary based upon specialty. So anywhere between like $30 to $80 per RVU. And so, primary care, peds might be at the lower level, and then neurosurgery, any kind of surgical specialty might be towards the top of it. And it's simple. So you just take your RVUs generated, multiply it by whatever the comp factor is that you've negotiated with the employer, and that's how much you get paid. So that's a simple way of doing it. There aren't many positions that utilize a pure RVU-based production model. And let me circle back to that after I get to collections. And so a collections-based agreement means that the physician, and this is just pure collections, the physician would get a percentage of all of the money that the practice collects from their personally performed services. So this is almost only utilized in a like a physician-owned, private practice setting. Big hospitals, hospital networks, they don't utilize collections. So how this would work is you would start with the employer. Usually you'd have like a guaranteed base for the first year or two, and then it may switch to collections. And so usually on a monthly basis, they would just calculate how much the practice receives on the physician's behalf, and then the physician would get, it's usually somewhere between 35 to 45% on a pure net collections based agreement. It can be great for some and bad for others for a number of reasons. First, it certainly is volume dependent, and the efficiency of the practice is important as well. And so if you're in a practice that is inefficient, meaning the staff, the rooming, the RNs, the MAs, the front office, they can affect how much a physician can perform. And so you're kind of at the mercy of some of those factors. And so if the volume crashes for whatever reason, then you're kind of out of luck and you're going to make a lot less money. So that's net collections. Now there are hybrid models of both RVUs and net collections. And so how that would normally work is they would take, as I said before, most physician contracts will have a guaranteed base for at least the first year or two. It takes 12 to 18 months for practice to reach maturity. And so after that time period is over with, then that's when you would switch to some kind of, hybrid-based model. And so perhaps for a physician on a hybrid RVU model, you would have, a smaller guaranteed amount per month, or you would have a set amount per month, and then any RVUs you generate over a certain amount. So let's just say you have a quarterly RVU, maybe bonus. So you're just getting paid, like a normal pay period salary. And then at the end of the quarter, they would calculate how many RVUs you generated. There would be a target. And then any RVUs you generated over that target, you would be paid out. Usually the same compensation factor for someone who's on like a pure RVU-based salary. Hybrid net collections would be the same thing. You would have a guaranteed base, and then it could be monthly, quarterly, annual reconciliation. And then if you hit a certain amount of collections for the quarter, for the year, then you would get a percentage of whatever that would be. That percentage is probably going to be less than if you were just on a pure net collections based agreement. Somewhere probably between 18 to 25% if you have a relatively normal base salary and then a productivity net collections incentive on top of that. It's very unlikely you would get 40%, let's just say, if you've met the threshold and go above that. It's possible, but these are all things you can negotiate for. So that's the main difference between RVU and net collections. Is an RVU based, well, actually, let me circle around real quick. RVUs, the benefit to the physician from an RVU is that no collections matter, meaning whatever you perform, you're going to get paid for. Whereas in a net collections model, it's possible that you could perform an activity, have an encounter, and then let's just say the patient flakes on paying for whatever reason, insurance denies the claim, it's a write-off by the employer. If any of those things happen, you're not going to get paid for it. And so that's why some physicians prefer the RVU model, because you are going to get paid no matter what happens on the collection end of it. But that's also why hospitals use the RVU model versus private practice using the collection-based model, because a private practice can't really afford to pay physicians for things that they're not getting paid for, if that makes sense. So anyway, hopefully that helps. If you have any questions about an employment agreement or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the phone number and website listed in the description below, and hopefully that's helpful. All right, take care.